Young adults aged 16 to 24 account for 12% of our population. That's around 7.4 million youth. 1 in 4 children under the age of 10 in the UK is already from a minority group, and this number will continue to grow in the coming decades. Political awareness and political engagement of these young is vital for the future success of UK's political system. British Youth Council is one of several organisations encouraging young people to take an interest in and attain an understanding of our political process.
Tell me about your organisation and what is it you do?
The British Youth Council is a membership organisation. We have over 260 members who get their young people to feed into what our policies should be. As an organisation, we then get the government to implement those policies. Our whole trustee board is under 25 and we enable young people's voices to be heard and acted upon. Today this then is about launching our youth manifesto, which is basically 5 issues that young people are saying that they want from the general election.
Lisa, why is it important that young people vote?
Well, quite simply because if you don't vote, then politicians like me can't hear you. The only real way to make your voice heard is through the ballot box.
When it comes to politics, do you think young people are disenfranchised?
Definitely. There's not enough education that's happening at school. There's a gap in the PSHE curriculum. There's not something that's offered universally, and there's just not this public awareness.
No, I don't think so. I think that they do engage with the political system sort of when they're asked, but perhaps they need to be asked a bit more often.
Researchers found that young girls, young women aged between 18 and 24, although maybe be as politically aware as their young male counterparts, are less likely to vote. What do you think can be done in order to get these young women more politically active?
I think what's really interesting about young women having these issues that they know they're passionate about but not potentially aligning that with their vote is that the current Westminster system doesn't account for them. They don't talk about them enough. They don't go out and speak their language.
I think it's an issue and we need to ensure that we give our messages, I think, in much simpler ways, but not just for young people, for the population as a whole.
Last year, following Scotland's decision to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in the independence referendum, MPs debated the case for lowering the UK's voting age to 16.
Less than 50% of 18 to 24-year-olds voted at the last general election. Do you really think there's an argument to lower the voting age to 16?
As a 16-year-old, I massively feel there's an argument to lower the voting age to 16. One, even if people who are 18 to 24 aren't voting, that's not a case to say we shouldn't widen the franchise. If people have the democratic right to vote, they also have the democratic right to choose not to vote, and that's not an argument for not giving the voting age to 16.
Because there is a lack of political education, the 18-year-olds aren't voting. But what I say is that if we had political education and 16-year-olds already have that knowledge, if like election day is on a school day, for example, they'd go into school, they'd be able to cast their vote. There's that whole general atmosphere of your voice counts, teachers encouraging you, talking it amongst the pupils, and actually being in school when the general election happens could actually increase voter turnout.
So in terms of getting your message out there to the youth of the UK, how successful do you think you've been? What successes have you had?
The League of Young Voters has been incredibly successful in terms of getting their message out. We found that initially when you ask young people, do you care about politics? They'll say, no, it doesn't really affect me. But then once we break it down, we debate the issues, we say, what is it that affects you? They have strong opinions, and then when we've shown them the policies that have been implemented into government and shown them that if you don't vote, government isn't going to listen to you, they actually are like, okay, give me that registration form, we're going to go out, register to vote.